My primary motivation around all of this is to normalize the behavior that you're advocating for, which is to use some video messages throughout your day and throughout your week in place of what would otherwise be faceless typed out text. And I think the more people are talking about it, the more people who are modeling it through their own behavior, like you sending 100 videos, the better off all of this is. I think the world gets smaller. I think the businesses get healthier. I think relationships get stronger. And so I'm happy to join you. Happy to talk about whatever you want to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Matthew Ray Scott actually had pointed me toward the book. I picked it up. I enjoy reading. I'm not driving as much as I used to. So generally audio books, used to be the way, but I'm so glad that and here it is, as a matter of fact, right? I'm so glad that, I picked it up and read it, because I feel like, if I was only engaging with it through audio, right, there's going to be things that I'm thinking about changing lanes and I'm not focused on a point that you've just made. So being able to really engage with it, it's been great. So in your book, right, you emphasize the importance of personalized videos and creating genuine interactions with your customers. Could you maybe share some examples of like where this has had a significant impact to a business or a customer relationship, even if it wasn't your own story?
Yeah, I mean, there are dozens of stories already at top of mind. Just at a high level, it's this idea of a personal video. Now, you can do evergreen videos that can feel personal, but in this case, let's just stay in personal. Hey, Doug. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Tim. Here are two ways to think about the question that you asked me. And here's what I would maybe advise. Happy to jump on a phone call and talk about this. What we're talking about in inserting these personal videos into some relationship communication flow. It could be prospect to customer, to long-term customer, to lifetime customer. It could be potential hire to new team member who are onboarding, to someone who is learning and growing and earning more opportunities, responsibility, promotions. It could be a potential strategic partner or a potential referral partner or a potential integration partner to an active partner. No matter what the relationship is, there's a flow that happens, stages of relationship. The most common we think about is when we embed it into a CRM and it's like, okay, they've gone from this stage to this stage. We did this thing, so we call them something different now, right? It's not as linear as we want it to be. And it's all made up of different touch points. And the problem today is that so many of them are faceless, digital, distant. And when I say distant, of course, I mean physically distant. Mm-hmm. But I also mean psychologically distant, emotionally distant, even intellectually distant. I already had a sense of who you were through our LinkedIn exchanges, mm-hmm. but being on this call with you already just brings it to life in a completely new way. It's still flat. It's still mediated. It's still on my screen, but it's a different experience. And so when we think about all the emails, text messages, social DMs, Slack messages, et cetera, that we're relying on to help people move forward with us for our own benefit and for theirs, for the benefit of our business, we're not closing those gaps on, we're not going to close the physical distance. There are just too many people that we rely on. They're too geographically dispersed, et cetera. But we can create these little human to human moments in order to close that psychological proximity, close that emotional proximity, and have people feel connected to us, to have people understand not just what we want to say, but our intent and the motivation and encouragement or concern or appreciation that's mm-hmm. behind it. And so, the easiest thing I would point people to is just a thank you habit, keeping like in my notebook, when someone comes to mind, or when I see something cool on a social network, or I'm in a meeting and someone's name comes up, let's just say one of our customer care people who is dealing with people when they're confused, frustrated, and sometimes even angry all day on the phone and by email and by chat. These are tough jobs. And so when I hear that someone worked through something, in a group setting where the leader of that department is mentioning this person, I'll just write it down. And then I'll just carve out some time and send thank you, good job, congratulations. I was excited to see, I was excited to hear. And just that alone, do you think It's a rhetorical question, of course. Do you think if you made a habit of reaching out, 5-10 minutes a day, 2 or 3 days a week, that would be a net benefit to the relationships or in and around your business, and as a consequence to the results of your business? The answer is obviously yes. Now, of course, we can look at the whole customer journey from prospect to, 5-year renewed and expanded customer, someone who's bought from us 15 times over the past 3 years or whatever, we call success. And we can identify moments that need to be brought to life in that way. And so some of the most successful videos I've heard from customers over the years that I wrote some stories about in both books, certainly initial lead follow-up, right? Someone does something, they fill out a form on your website, or they inquire, or they get personally introduced to you, whatever we call a new lead situation. All of that lead follow-up tends to be around, how do I get face-to-face with this person? Mm-hmm. And with a video message, you can get face-to-face earlier and more often throughout that relationship. You are your ultimate differentiator. And so just the idea of you showing up in front of someone not only says, this isn't just a machine that I'm like shouting into and hoping for a response. We've all been in that kind of customer experience. It validates that not only are you a real person, you're a real person who carries yourself a particular way. You're a real person who is thoughtful enough to say, hey, I saw that you were on this page of the website and you did this thing. I just wanted to introduce myself, let you know that I'm the person that offered that piece of content. I assume you were interested in it because of X, Y, and Z. The next best step is to jump on the phone briefly. But before I do, I wanted to share this thing that I've got for you right down below, right? That's just an example of one way you could do lead. So lead follow-up is one. How do I let someone know there's a real person who's here to help, who knows what they're talking about, who is completely different than my expectations, which is black box, anonymity, machine-driven auto responses. And I'm completely different from anyone else you might be talking to, because despite my own best efforts, so few people are doing this. So the act alone is still differentiating. Appointment confirmation, that one could be done kind of with a generic video or a personal video, but appointment follow-up is the money video. Like, so let's just say you do your first call, whether that's a Zoom meeting, whether it's in person, whether it's coffee appointment, maybe it's a phone call. Any good sales and service person is, of course, keeping notes. Of course, now we have like transcripts and bots to do a lot of this for us. I personally feel like humans should not completely outsource that. We should still be dealing with like, sure, what do we understand? Because the transcript doesn't include what wasn't said in that meeting or how something was said in that meeting. That is a completely still a human discernment. And I think it's an important part of how we make the sale and how we make the relationship successful, is to understand these things. How was she talking about this? Not what exactly did she say, but how did she say it? Anyway, a bit of an aside. Following up after that call or appointment, that initial discovery, you now know a lot more about them. What is their motivation? What excites them? What concerns them? What objections do they have? What are some of the other kind of priorities that this is in the mix against? Because we're also selling against priority, not just budget and competitors and all these other things. We know all of that now. We know it intuitively as human beings if we're actively listening and actively paying attention. And so in a video message, we can give that back to someone. Sure. We can make them know that they were seen, they were heard, they were understood, they were valued, they were thought about. We have a plan for them. It's not fully baked yet. We're just getting this relationship started, but I have a sense of what that could be. And I'm conveying based on my expertise and what I heard from you, kind of, I'm loosely painting a picture of what it could look like a year from now or 2 years from now if we continue to pursue this and we end up, getting into some kind of a commercial relationship together. Certainly presenting contracts and proposals, sometimes with a screen recording to break down detail or complexity. Certainly responding to any questions, especially in a kind of a decision by committee situation where there's multiple people who influence and perhaps even make the decision about whether or not to proceed with you. You're going to get inquiries along that. Let's just say you have a 3-month sales cycle. It could be 12, it could be 1, it could be 30 days, it could whatever. But let's just say it's a 3-month sales cycle. There's going to be some back and forth throughout that. And as people are reaching out with questions, don't just type up 3-paragraph responses and give them a link to an article that explains it further. Sure. That's a homework assignment. Just speak to them and then they can forward you to other people who they may be asking the question on behalf of. So that's just all pre-commitment, pre-sale. I could go on, but it's been an absolute joy to have been talking about, working on, practicing, teaching a lot of these ideas over the past dozen years. And so much of what I'm doing today, I learned by talking to other people who are doing things that I hadn't thought of.
Okay. It's funny. I just the other day, I in line with what you were saying about where else you can use it, because sometimes it's just easier to send a video than to type some elaborate text message. And yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was trying to introduce a young lady who's trying to get a job to some people in the same industry that I know that they should meet. Well, instead of writing the obligatory, "Hi, Jan, meet Bob," and the text message, and "Bob, meet Jan," and then trying to give a background of who they are, I just hit record, explained and introduced the two to each other, and then sent that video to the two of them in a text message, and they connected, and they've got an interview today. So
love it. So good. And by the way, that's another fantastic use case. And then I'll give it back to you for, a redirect. You don't need many use cases to start the habit. You need one or two. And one of them I always advise for people who win by referral and win kind of the way that you're talking about. Most people are still doing that introduction by typed out text. And so I always advise when you get a referral or someone makes a personal introduction to you, you send two truly personal videos. One is to the person who made the referral. The other is to the person who you were referred to. To this person, it's "Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. This is the third referral you've given me in X amount of time. I totally owe you lunch, maybe even a gift basket or a gift card. Regardless, I'm going to treat Jennifer like gold, as I always do. I just so appreciate you thinking of me when this conversation came up between the two of you. And I appreciate me being the person that you think is, most valuable in this situation. I'll keep you updated as this goes forward. We already have a call scheduled for Thursday." To Jennifer, it's, "Hey, Jennifer, I'm Ethan. Tim made this introduction. I just wanted to put a face with the name." In parentheses, this isn't what you say. Essentially, you're validating all the nice things Tim said. And you're sharing some of what you heard. And you're offering the next step, which let's just say it's a phone call. What is, next Thursday between 2 and 4 sound like, that kind of a thing. And so if that's the only thing you do and it comes up, once a month, that's 24 videos a year. But that alone, do you think that Jennifer is even more likely to work with you because you showed up right away and you closed down all the gaps and answered any questions and these are subconscious questions. Is Ethan who Tim says he is? Can this person really help me? Do I really want to make this decision? Am I really prepared to go forward at all? Regardless of who the provider is. Yes, I've kind of created some confidence and trust and some momentum forward just by introducing myself, validating what I heard and promising some potential positive future. And then to Tim, do you think Tim is more likely to refer and recommend me if I send that video as well as another one 2 weeks later after we've taken the next step, and then another one 2 months later as we're actively moving forward? The answer to those is yes. And do we want to win by referral? Yes, absolutely we do. Those are the easiest and best opportunities any of us has, regardless of industry. And so, and even if we're in a position, and I'm in this position, when people get referred to BombBomb, they often get referred through me. And then I go to someone on our sales team and say, "Hey, here's the situation." I'll often take the first call as well, in this case with Jennifer in my made up scenario. And then I'll keep all my own notes and turn that over internally, oftentimes with a video, so I can explain things as you said you did in that introduction. And it's just better, period. So that's just another use case that I love.
So let me ask you this. I've had this question a few times from people who are running organizations, maybe not necessarily the people on the front lines trying to drive sales and customer engagement. And it's this: how do they show ROI?
So many ways to approach this. One, intuitively, depending on my mood and depending on my relationship with the person, I would ask a question like, "Oh, are you prepared to fire all of your salespeople?" "Oh, you're not. Why not?" "Oh, people matter. Relationships matter. Emotional connection matters. Trust, confidence, rapport, guidance, expertise matter. Why are you hiding the exact qualities that you hired this person for behind a cloak of digital anonymity? right? You hired these people for a reason, and yet you equip them and expect them to be making robo-driven, auto-dialed phone calls, sometimes even dropping pre-recorded voicemails and shooting out automated emails. And they're just sitting there waiting, interfacing with all of these dashboards, waiting for some kind of a response so that they can be who they are. This allows them to be out in front of people and to be who they are and to win as they are, to showcase the qualities that you hired them for earlier and more often throughout the relationship. Intuitively, it's obviously worthwhile. In addition, you already said, and I kind of implied, that in so many cases, this is actually a time saver. Like, we speak 4 times faster than we type on average, just on a words per minute basis. Most people, I think, would identify themselves as not being great writers. It's a developed skill like any other skill. And yet, certainly people in customer-facing roles, let's say leadership, management, sales, customer service, account management, all these like customer and employee facing roles. Let's just call employees, our internal customers.
Yep.
Everyone in these customer facing roles is faced with opportunities all the time where they need to communicate something. And are they better getting all intellectual, getting into their head, trying to capture the thoughts and feelings that they want to convey, doing their very best to capture those in words and phrases and sentences and paragraphs, sending them off and hoping not only that other people understand not just the message, but their intent behind it, just hoping, but also hoping that they got up on the right side of the bed and they're giving you the benefit of the doubt. Because when you type up a message and send it, you're giving away complete control over how that message is read, versus you record that exact same video, that exact same message, you speaking for 87 seconds, which would have taken you 5 minutes to type, by the way, where you're just explaining something and you're doing it like you didn't just, it's not stream of consciousness. You were clear before you hit record who it's for, where are they at, where do I need them to be intellectually and emotionally, and how can I move them toward it? This is all things that you'll get very, very natural at, and you're doing a lot of it all the time anyway. Before you pick up the phone, you know who you're calling and why. You're not just winging it, right? And so it's the same thing when you hit record. It's like hitting the dial button as soon as you click the person's name. So there's that. Now to the ROI, very direct. This is all intuitively, this all makes sense. Mm-hmm. I feel very confident that almost everyone working professionally would benefit from having a video messaging tool in their communication mix, because it plays a completely unique role, separate from all the rich synchronous communication, live in person, live on a video call, which is a little bit less rich, and live on a phone call, which is a lot less rich than a video call, which is less rich than being in person. But this is all live, synchronous human exchange. On the other end, we have the speed, convenience, and asynchronicity of email, Slack, text, social, etc. Video messages bring some of the rich qualities of this synchronous direct communication, but packages it and delivers it with the speed, convenience, and asynchronicity of these other channels.